Hi and welcome to my channel. So today I'm bringing you a Project Life spread for 2017, and for this one I'm using my June Citrus Twist kit. So while a lot of the photos on this layout were quite dark, I wanted to make sure that any filler ones that I used were quite light, just to brighten up the spread a little bit. So I've trimmed down one of the 6x6 papers to get my 4x6 card on the right, and then I've actually used the strip that was cut off on a previous layout just to layer down the middle to pop on it that picture of the concert that two of my girls went to. Now, quite a few of those are concert pictures. In fact, all these pictures are from my kids, and the one in the middle is a concert picture taken at the concert, and I'm not going to put anything on that just because I do like the way that that all shines out. And yeah, a lot of it now is just messing with the few die cuts that I do have left. I did manage to use one of the little leatherette pieces in the little bow, though I think it's going to be a while before I'll be able to use those lollipop ones, just the rate that my Project Life spreads are going. I'm still on April, so we'll see if I manage to get to any that involve anything summery, and I can try and use up those last few. So I've also put on, the leatherette sticker that said funny, and I did sort of put that smack bang in the middle of a photograph my daughter took of a load of Instax pictures, and it looked good and it stuck, so I had to make everything else work around it. But I'm trying to bring in now a little pop of colour here and there, trying to bring in some of the teal and some of the red. And a lot of this layout is me just messing about with what I think will look right or not. I do decide to do my stamping underneath that poster, and I am just going to use that one stamp on this layout saying on the record. But I did know I wanted to use this little wooden type word, and that one just says selfie. So because I have got that in one place on the page, I've also got the wood grain paper effect behind the poster. I am going to pull another word up to the top, and that just says relax. Just a nice universal word that will work. And I'm going to use little foam hexagons just to pop on that little flower, and then I'm going to use a couple of the others just to go off the top of that page, just to try and bring in that darkness of the corner. Now the little you and me, I did want to have a pop of colour behind that, so I just ended up using one of the other die cuts. I can't even remember what it said. It's probably one that I would have used in time, but it works for this layout, and if I can't see it, then I'm not going to want to use it, am I? That's sort of the way I decided to work. So I'm also going to bring in some of these little wooden arrows. I do bring in a couple of those on the bottom card, and then I mess about quite a bit to get some stuff layered up as well on there. So I end up with quite a few different little bits down that bottom, but I do think it works out looking quite well. And I'm also going to pop up on foam dots that heart. Now, I did mess about quite a lot with this top card. I wanted to put something on it, but I wasn't quite sure what. I do like the card on its own, but just the way the layout was, I felt as though it did need something on there. So I messed about with a few arrows and they didn't work. I also messed about with a few of the little die cut hearts, but they weren't really working for me either. Though I did manage to pop this teal one on that little cluster in the bottom just to bring that colour down to the bottom as well. And then what did I do next? That is the question. I actually did a lot of sticking as I went along on this layout, even though I did mess about with a few bits and maybe move a few bits about, but I did end up sticking with what I'd decided on this layout. I just knew it wasn't quite done and it needed something else. It was just a matter of finding out what was probably the hardest part. So I had a look at the leatherette stickers, and then I decided to bring in some of these orange letters that we got in the kit. and I initially brought that number 2 up into the top corner, and I liked the way that that looked. I did like it on the You and Me as well, but I felt it looked better, or that top corner needed it more. So on the You and Me, I just put Us and used 2 letters to put that, and that's just my daughter with one of her friends. And it wasn't until a bit later on that I did realise that it wasn't actually 2 people in a lot of those Instax pictures, it was 3. So I do end up changing that out. But to try and bring the colouring down into another cluster, I actually use the middle of some letters to sort of create a little enamel dots cluster down the bottom. Now I will end up changing that out and using the number 2, but I do like the way it looks anyway, before I got to the point that I realised, oops, there's 3 people in this photo. So to work on the top card, I've pulled in my leaf bowl, which contains quite a few embellishments from Citrus Twist, and they were from an embellishment grab bags that I picked up. I've picked up about 3 of them in there, and it's great for just little token pieces. I've pulled out a little woodword that says just for fun, and that's going to lay up on the top, and I like the way that that looks. And then I will end up bringing some cork pieces in as well. I did have a look at the Friends arrow, but I felt that that was too big and it wasn't sitting in the right place for a cluster. So I had a good rummage through and found a couple of other little word strips in sort of the light wood. And I will end up using one of them, and that's just the one that says play, and that's just going to sit on that bottom corner. The only other thing, I think there's probably a couple of other things that I do pull out of there, is I do pull out some cork stars, and I use those on that top card, and I like the way that those cluster together and just give that card a little bit of something else. And then the last thing I will bring in is I will find a little cork word that says yes, and I'll bring that into the bottom cluster. I tried a heart in a few different places, but it wasn't quite sitting right, but I did know that I needed something cork somewhere else on the layout. So while I have a mess with these words, I will end up coming back to that little dish and finding those shortly. So just take this time while I'm moving stuff about and not doing anything else. Just to let you know, if you haven't watched my channel before, for my 2017 project life, I do use different styles of page protectors. I'm trying to use up what I have, and I do that according to the photos and let the photos or the events dictate what it is that I'm using. So this one is one of the slightly shorter than 12 by 12, and I've got 2 portrait 4 by 6 on the right hand side. I've got 2 landscape on the left, and then I've got 2 little 3 by 4s at the top. So you will find that my next layout is the other side of this. But there we go, I've found that other little cork piece, and the last thing I'm going to add is a little tiny triangle out of the middle of the A, just to bring some of that orange into the bottom corner as well. And then I did decide that I was happy with the balance and how things went across the page. So I'm going to go around all of my cards in a black pen, which I do across the layouts, and then I'm going to add in my stitching. So on the bottom photo of my 2 daughters, I've just done a straight stitch just to stitch that tag onto the layout, and then on this top card, as you can see, I've just underlined the just for fun. But there will be some close-up photos coming up. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below and I will get back to you. But thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like if you've enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all again soon.